Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Box Office Bingers. Ernesto, the summer is winding down. Some would say the summer's already gone. We're already in September.
I think we have like maybe one more, what I would consider one more summer movie before we kind of migrate into the fall season.
I agree.
That's an adventure for next week, though.
That is an adventure for next week, and I think like we did this last year, and I'm kind of looking forward to it for this year as well. But last year we kind of went over the box office numbers after the summer blockbuster season, and kind of compare what our expectations was, how the season as a whole was. But I think as an overview, I can already say that like the numbers, the box office had a weak start, but maybe like a strong finish. And we'll definitely see by next week how Beetlejuice kind of, in my opinion, kind of like really wrap up the summer season.
I agree.
Officially. But before we get into
soft
that,
tease for our summer box office recap, but that is definitely coming.
Yeah, that's definitely coming, and that a little tease for the future episodes coming in September. But before we even dive into all of that, we have Ernesto. I think this episode is going to be. I was going to say something clever, but I'm not getting anything right now. I'm going to say something we've been craving for
That's
a
while. A good one. What are you talking about? That's good.
Something we have an appetite that we're. You see, I should have stopped the craving. Anyway, doesn't matter. Tell our lovely listeners what movie we are reviewing this week.
This week, we are reviewing Hunger. This is our first time actually reviewing a Thailand film, directed by Sitasiri Mongkolsiri. I really hope that I said that correctly. I'm actually really excited to talk this movie with you. I have some things that I need to say, and I'm very curious what you have to say about this.
Yeah, to your point, we've been doing our foreign film of the month for quite some time now. Sometimes we miss a month or two, but I feel like in my head, Ernesto, in my mind, that we make up for some of the lost months we have due to the very busy Oscar season that we try to like cram in like 5 in like 1 month. So
True.
I think in some cases we might miss a month here or there, but I think we balance it out. Like I think we at the very end of the day, I think we get about 12 a year that we kind of feature on this, and we've been doing this now since the very beginning. If you think about this, we like Parasite.
Our very first film
was our first
review.
Exactly. And to this day, we're almost 5 years deep into this podcast now, which is crazy to think about. But we said Bong Joon-ho said that once you get past the 1-inch border on the bottom of your screen, your movie world will be opened up. You'll be open to a whole new world of movies. And he's not wrong. We reviewed. He's so right. And I'm kind of happy that we've done this for so long now. We kept up with this tradition of taking a full episode to dedicate to a foreign film. And I think even when Oscar season comes rolling around, we take a huge appreciation for some of these movies down the line. So
they're so good.
Yeah,
and
this movie is.
I think what's really interesting about them is just that it's how different they are. Like we're so used to watching some like the Hollywood formula, and then it's kind of refreshing to watch movies from other countries because it also gives you a glimpse to like their society and just kind of how they view the world. And even sometimes just the story construction is completely different, and it's just it's something nice to appreciate. So I always look forward to doing it.
Yeah, especially like coming out of last year, like Godzilla -1 was my favorite movie of the year.
Absolutely,
and
100%.
It's so good, and it was a foreign film. Like if either one of us, if anyone's like, I don't want to do it, I don't want to read subtitles, or like even Ernesto makes fun of me all the time. I go the dub route half the time.
He does.
And like, at least I still give the movie a shot, though. That's like, if that's what you got to do to watch it, then go ahead and do that. Or probably more traditionally, it's better to do the sub version. But sometimes I'm lazy, and if the option's there, I'm going to take it to listen to.
You already know my soapbox on sub versus dub. My only thing, and you know what? I have the perfect case for it because I watched Godzilla -1 and subbed. I've watched both versions, subbed and dubbed. I watched subbed in the theaters and I watched dubbed at home with family because they were like they didn't want to. So I was like, that's fine. I put the dubbed version on, and the movie just doesn't hit the same like it does with subbed. It's fair. So true. Like once you start hearing, it really makes a difference when you hear the voices and how they're meant to be sound. Like I feel like you really understand the inflection. Like, because there were certain things that they over exaggerated in the subbed version, and it almost threw off the balance of that movie. But I definitely, you have a fair argument that I'm not doubting that subs is better. There's sometimes, depending on the situation, like just to watch the movie and get it and in the time that it was allowed it, instead of me spending more time, because sometimes I gotta pause it to read and stuff like that. Like sometimes time does not in our favor. So I definitely take dub as a nice thing to have. But anyway, especially with this movie, it's available on Netflix if anyone wants to see Hunger. And we're going to be diving into our spoiler review a little bit later in the show. But you know what? It's been a while since we've covered like a nice traditional show. I feel like it's been a minute. And I love when we have guests on the show, but sometimes we don't always do the news. Sometimes we don't always do What You Watchin'. Sometimes we don't do either, and we just go straight to the movie like we did last week when we reviewed Alien Romulus, which if you haven't listened to that episode, definitely listen to that. We had a great conversation with newcomers Adam and Grayson onto the show about Alien Romulus. But now I feel like it's been a while since we've been like returned to form. We got some news. We got about half a month's worth of news to cover. We got about at least 3 weeks of What You Watchin'. It's going to be a full packed episode for you guys. So I hope you came hungry. There you go. You did it. You did it.
Thank you. All right, let's start with a Creature of the Black Lagoon remake is in the works at Universal Pictures. James Wan, the director behind Saw, Insidious, The Conjuring, Furious 7, Aquaman, and Malignant, is in talks to direct the film. The project is described as a groundbreaking, modernized retelling that lends into visceral horror within paying respect to the original classic. It's been 70 years since The Creature from the Black Lagoon first graced the big screen in 1954.
I mean, overall, I think this is good news. I mean, I like James Wan. I think he does well, and this is in his realm of the horror. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight for Black Lagoon, but I have high hopes that this will be well. This should be good.
Yeah, in some cases, there's always an argument to be like, oh, we don't need to remake it. We don't need to remake this. It's a classic. But I think over the years, Universal has proven that they can, especially when it comes to Universal monsters, they can remake it and actually be really good. Like The Invisible Man that came out about 4 years ago. That was a great movie.
Yeah, but it's the modernized retelling. So it's almost like a new story. Like if anything, it should just be the only thing that's the same is the monster. Maybe the elements of how the monster is created, but overall you have open reign to kind of do what you want with him. Especially since Universal's trying to build they're trying to build their monsters universe. That's like they're trying to build their monsterverse, I guess. Is what they would want.
Yeah, and they used to at one point it was called Dark Universe,
right.
And then that didn't really pan out for them when they tried it with Tom Cruise and that whole thing, and that never came to fruition. But I think it's time for Creature of the Black Lagoon to have a remake. Like I said, it's been 70 years and he hasn't really been touched over the years. So I think it's time to if we can have a retelling or a remake of the Harry Potter series, not but 20 years later, then I think we can go diving into the creature of the Black Lagoon 70 years after the fact.
Yes, I agree.
So
I agree.
I'm looking, and then also we have like a numerous amount of vampire, Frankenstein movies, werewolf movies, mummy movies. I think it's time for him to shine. He's been in the deeps of the ocean for quite too long.
It's time for him to come out of the Black Lagoon.
There you go. Exactly.
Moving on, following his breakout role in Oscar-winning film The Holdovers, Dominic Sessa is in early talks to star as the late celebrity chef and travel documentarian Anthony Bourdain in the biopic titled Tony. A24 is in negotiations to acquire the film from Tim and Trevor White, the Oscar-winning producing duo behind King Richard, as well as The Post, 8-Bit Christmas, and No One Will Save You. Blackberry director Matt Johnson is attached to direct. Now, you watched Blackberry, didn't you?
I did watch Blackberry, and it was like...
Did you like it?
It was pretty good. I did like it. I watched it on a plane. It was a pretty solid biopic of like this. It brought a lot of drama to it, and I thought the two main leads, totally forgot their name right now, but I thought they did a great job. They're not known for kind of dramas. They're mainly known for comedies. Once you see the name, you know what I'm talking about.
Glenn Howerton.
Yeah.
And Jay Baruchel.
Yes. Yeah. He was. Jay Baruchel was also the voice of Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon. But he was also in like This Is the End and She's Out of My League. And David Howerton, he's known for Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So they both did like more of a dramatic role here, and I thought it was great. I thought it was like a really solid biopic, and seeing that Matt Johnson is involved for an Anthony Bourdain biopic, I think he can handle that material very well, especially coming out of Dominic Sessa from his breakout performance in The Holdovers. I know that was one of the highlights that we were talking about when we saw the movie last year.
He was fantastic, and he was a brand new actor. And this is after that role, I'm on board. I think whatever comes of it, if they do manage to get Dominic Sessa, I think it'll be either way. It'll be worth your time because he's a fantastic actor.
I mean, just looking, if you're watching us on YouTube right now or at Spotify, you can see like the resemblance is there.
It's there. He looks like he definitely could pull off a young Anthony Bourdain. I'm here for it.
I think that'd be an interesting biopic to see all that transform. And I remember reading further into the article, and they were saying that they weren't sure at what point of their life they're going to pick, if it's going to be something specific or something a wide range. But anything that comes out of it, I'm really looking forward to it. I think this definitely has all the makings of something really great, especially having the producing team behind King Richard, another famous biopic that's Oscar winning as well. So yeah, The Post was also good. If A24 even acquires it, I think they'll have the proper funding to get this movie off the ground.
It is interesting because unfortunately Anthony Bourdain he took his own life in the end. So it is curious to see. I am curious to see what portion of his life they're going to take and how they link that to his eventual death in the end, and like how are they going to weave, how is all that going to be weaved into the story. So I think this is definitely going to be one that we should watch out for, and kind of just keep an ear out for any news coming out for this, because I think this is going to be a big one whenever it comes out.
I very much agree with that. Yeah, I think this all has the makings of something that can be something really special that they can come out with. Speaking of biopics, Nicolas Cage will portray John Madden, the legendary American football coach and sports commentator, in the upcoming biopic drama titled Madden for Amazon MGM Studios. David O. Russell, the director behind The Fighter, Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, Joy, and Amsterdam, will serve as writer, director, and producer for the film. Russell said the film will be about the joy, humanity, and genius that was John Madden, and a widely inventive, cool world of the 1970s. I definitely think David O. Russell is great on his period pieces. I think American Hustle is a great movie to kind of showcase what he can do with a period piece. I don't know how I feel about Nicolas Cage playing John Madden. I don't know if he was the right choice for that.
Yeah, that is an interesting choice. Like, that's not some, but maybe he has the, I don't even want to say, he has the energy that I think that can be brought to that role. It's
That's
possible.
fair.
I mean, from what I remember from John Madden playing the games, he's just a very charismatic character. So
Yeah.
So I could totally see Nick Cage pulling that off.
Yeah, you know what? You make a good point. I think he definitely matches the energy of what John Madden was. So maybe he can bring that too. But I there's also part of me where I feel like Nicolas Cage would just go over the top with it to the point where it'd be a little cheesy. But then again, I don't know what type of vibe that they're going for in this movie. Maybe it is better that he went over the top and it is cheesy, and that's the whole point of it. But I think we need a little bit more context of, like, they said it was going to be, it said it was going to be a drama, but I mean, they also said we're going to highlight the joy of what he was. So maybe it can go both ways. Maybe you can have both of this joyous character in a drama. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But David O. Russell is a great director. He hasn't always been having the hits lately, but for the most part, I think his movies have stayed consistent on what the vibe he's trying to do.
If anything, as long as whatever comes of this, as long as they respect John Madden's legacy, that's really what matters. And that really goes for any biopic. It's like, it's such a, especially for somebody who's passed away, like, it's very hard because you kind of have to weigh that balance, like, on on the story you're trying to tell. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I agree.
All right, moving on. Jack Black and Paul Rudd are in talks to star in a comedic reimagining of the 1997 horror thriller cult classic Anaconda for Columbia Pictures. Writer-director Tom Gormican, The Unbearable Weight of Mass and Talent, and co-writer of Beverly Hills Axel F., will direct and co-write the film with collaborator Kevin Etten. The film will reportedly take a meta turn and focus on a group of friends who are facing midlife crises and set off to remake their favorite movie from their youth. That's okay. So it's not redoing Anaconda. It's using Anaconda as a plot device, which I'm totally for. That sounds fun.
I kind of wrote this off. Wrote this movie off a little bit because I was like, oh, a remake of Anaconda, great. Yeah. But then I looked into it a little bit more, and I was actually listening to a podcast, and they were talking about this reimagining, and I was like, oh wait, this is what this movie's going to be about? And then I actually read the article, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is actually really interesting. The fact that Tom Gormican, the director behind The Unbearable Weight of Mass and Talent, and if you've seen that, it's very meta. It's basically Nicolas Cage playing an exaggerated version of himself, acknowledging the fact that he is Nicolas Cage and he is kind of crazy, and other people kind of want his services. I forgot the whole plot of that movie. We reviewed it in one of our episodes. Definitely go check out those episodes, maybe like 2 years ago. But I think that having him attached to it and knowing this is going to be a meta story, I think he's a perfect director for it, because I thought The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was very funny.
It was a fun movie.
And I don't know, this is an interesting take on a movie. Kind of, being very meta about it, how the movie of Anaconda exists, and they are just, they want to make a movie. Was it a remake?
Yeah, they want to
make a remake of their favorite movie, which is, I guess I'm assuming, Anaconda.
But I think that's
great. I'm going
to
assume that it's going to be some hilarities ensues, and maybe they actually go to the jungle, and then things get real. Who knows what type of turn this could take in this?
But that's great, because we don't need another Anaconda movie, but we can make a movie that like almost like honors the legacy of the original classic of the Anaconda movie, and like it is a cult classic because it's campy. It's like campy 90s horror. And so this is that. So if anything, this is going to be like a return to that. I'm here for it. And it's something different. It's not remaking the movie. It's something completely different.
It is something different, and that's why it has my attention. And I think
I agree.
Paul Rudd and Jack Black definitely. I'm not sure if they've ever done a movie before together, but I think this is a nice pairing that I think both of these can kind of take whatever this is and have some fun with it. And I know that Paul Rudd has been tied up with Marvel lately, but I think for him, it's nice to see him coming back to a comedy, since it doesn't seem like we're going to be seeing him as Ant-Man for quite some time.
Correct. Yeah, it would appear so.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's not coming back. I just think he might be taking a break.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
For a little bit. This is going to be a while. But yeah, no, I like this. I like this idea of, like you said, taking a classic and putting a little spin on it, giving us something a little bit different that is actually it almost makes you want to go back and watch the Anaconda movie, not because they're remaking it, because it's actually going to be really important to the story. And in some cases, it's like a meta sequel to it, if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just like another branch.
Full disclosure, though, I've never seen this movie in its entirety.
It's a great,
and I think
it's campy.
I think I need to.
It's campy and it's great. Maybe for spooky season, you kind of throw that one in there.
Throw in there, okay, fair enough. I've seen a lot of clips from it because I know there's a lot of good memes about this movie, but I have never actually seen it in its full form. So maybe this is a good reason for me to check it out.
When I used to live with Estevan, he used to make me watch it.
Oh, of course, this makes complete sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Complete sense. Moving on, James Spader is set to reprise his role as the villainous artificial intelligence Ultron from 2015's Age of Ultron for Marvel Studios' upcoming Vision series. Ultron is expected to be a main character in the series and not just a cameo, which I find very interesting. Spader will join Paul Bettany, who is also returning to play Vision. As we previously talked about, Star Trek Picard Season 2 and 3 executive producer and showrunner Terry Matalis will be the showrunner for the Untitled Vision series that is expected to premiere on Disney Plus in 2026. So, first of all, I'm actually still shocked that they are moving forward with this series, because I feel like that this is still one of those that I don't think we fully need just yet. But adding Ultron into the mix does sweeten the deal a little bit.
Not only adding Ultron, adding James Spader Ultron to the mix.
Yes.
I think it's interesting that they point that fact out, because I feel like we didn't, in Ultron, like Age of Ultron, we didn't get a lot of James Spader as Ultron. And he's
right.
That man his voice has such gravitas that anything he brings to the role, I think that this is very welcomed. Maybe this might be what actually saves this series, is James Spader returning to the series, returning to this.
And I think obviously, like, Vision and Ultron have a history together. That's not a surprise. The whole point. Yeah. Exactly. So that makes complete sense that if they're making a Vision series, this would be a perfect opportunity for Ultron to come back. And not only come back for the series, but maybe, just maybe, he can come back into the bigger MCU as a whole. I don't know if they'll actually do that with the whole Doctor Doom in the mix, because it seems like that's where they're going toward now. But who knows? Maybe there's room for Ultron in the bigger scheme of things, especially dealing with the multiverse.
I think
so. I'm
here for it, but I think it's just adding him back to the mix. Like, this could just what brings him back into the fold, so that even after Secret Wars, they could find ways to weave him into another, whatever movie, whatever another series, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and also I wasn't too thrilled of how his character ended in Age of Ultron. So it's good to hear that they are thinking about a way to kind of bring him back to the fold, to give him more story. And especially when they said that he wasn't going to be a cameo, it's going to be a main character in the story, meaning that, the lack of what James Spader that we got from the movie, like you were just saying, it looks like we'll get at least, a whole bunch of time within maybe a 6-episode time span with this character, more than we've ever gotten before. Kind of very similar to what WandaVision is. Mm-hmm. Like we got little bits and pieces of Wanda and Vision throughout the MCU movies, but then we really got to know these characters in WandaVision, the show. So I think now having Ultron having the same effect, I think this seems like a good thing. Like, if this is what their plan was, so I may be taking a step back and maybe giving some criticism, like, you don't need this show.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, all right, if you're going to put Ultron in it, maybe you got some plans I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I was not interested before, and I am now. Like, this is what's going to, this is what will drive me to watch the Vision series.
Well, so sidebar, speaking of WandaVision, are you excited at all about Agatha all along? Anything about that show entices you to, like, maybe do like a weekly viewing of it, or like you maybe wait for it all to come out, or any anticipation? Maybe you might have seen the trailer about it.
I haven't seen the trailer, but I have seen little things here and there that, you know, they're hyping it up to be, the implications are going to affect the larger MCU, and it's supposed to really matter to the main storyline. So I don't know. Is this your way of asking me to watch it week to week? Do you want to watch it week to week? No.
I mean, I'm probably going to watch it week to week regardless. I'm just curious of your thoughts, since we're on the topic of Marvel right now, and this is the only show from Marvel that's a lie. They came out with Echo in January.
Oh, yeah.
But that was,
I did not watch
some
that.
people call that like a, yeah. It was fine. Echo was fine. But given that Agatha all along is like this is a series that Marvel has been advertising for quite some time now, and likely the only series that feels like a series, because Echo definitely felt like a mini series. And so will be like a full, in my opinion, like a full series. So
I'm not like, you know, I don't know the best way to say this. Like, I'm not lining up to go watch it week to week, but I will. I mean, if there's nothing else out, then I will watch it.
Give it a shot.
I will give it a shot week to week.
Yeah, I will say their marketing has been pretty good, and from a show that I feel like didn't need to happen again, this has my interest. Like, they're doing a good job of marketing this to be like, you know what, this could be a good show for the spooky season that's coming up right now. So
true,
I'm okay with it.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this. I think I love.
Yes.
I mean, what's that show that he does on NBC? The Blacklist.
Blacklist. There you go.
Like, I love the first couple seasons of it. It got a little repetitive as the show progressed. But
yeah.
I really love James Spader. I love his delivery. I love like the actual sound of his voice when he does his delivery is like those two things combined. Like, he's just a fantastic actor. He's great. Mm-hmm. So I'm here for this. I'm excited they're finding a way to bring him back into the fold.
Same.
All right, moving on. A John Wick TV series is in development at Lionsgate TV. No network or streaming service is attached, with Lionsgate currently shopping the project. The series, titled John Wick Under the High Table, would pick up immediately after the events of John Wick Chapter 4. The official logline states, John Wick has left the world of the high table in a tenuous position and a collection of new characters who look to make a name for themselves, while some of the franchise stalwart characters remain committed to the old world order. The series will combine new and old, and thrust the Wick universe into a new age. John Wick 1-4 director Chad Stahelski will executive produce the series along with Keanu Reeves, and Keanu will direct the pilot episode. Is that
No. Sorry. No, Chadwick Stahelski will direct the pilot.
Oh, okay.
And Keanu Reeves is also executive producing the show.
Well, I hope he gets picked up, because I think that sounds great, because it doesn't need Keanu Reeves, but it's good to know that him and the director both have their hands in this.
Yeah, Lionsgate is definitely pushing hard on their John Wick universe, because not only did we get 4 movies out of this, and I feel like, in my opinion, I think that's enough. We also have The Continental that was on Peacock.
Did you watch that?
Apparently didn't. I did not. It didn't sound like it went favorably. It didn't look like a lot of people enjoyed it. And then they're also coming out with Ballerina, that's supposed to be coming out next year, starring Ana de Armas, and also featuring Keanu Reeves said he was coming back in that movie. So, because it's supposed to take place between the events of 3 and 4, I think. And then we're also getting a what's that character's name? We talked about this a few weeks ago. The blind assassin.
I don't remember his name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he was introduced in John Wick Chapter 4, and he is also getting his own movie. And now we're getting this series. I think it's a lot. It's a lot of John Wick that I don't know if we need. I think, honestly, Kane, thank you. The only thing that I feel like is probably deserving of like a spinoff was the Kane movie that we're getting, the Kane spinoff.
Isn't that going to be that is also going to be a series, isn't it? Or is that going to be a movie?
I thought it was a movie. I thought they're doing a spinoff film from it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a lot of John Wick. I don't know how I feel about another series into the mix.
Yeah, it's a movie.
It's a movie. Okay. Hey, I'm not sure how I feel about another series into the mix. I do think out of the Continental, which I didn't really care for, this series has more going for it than I feel like the Continental does.
Yeah.
And a Kane movie has more of a reason to be here than a ballerina movie, because I don't think that needs to be there either. So I feel like they're doing a lot with the John Wick universe. I hate to see it kind of diluted if it's not great, as I much enjoyed the film series. So time will tell on this. I'm not like overly excited about it, but I can be down for it.
Yeah, I think just the fact that they're attached is what has my attention. Like all the other ones, that was not something that was not part of the marketing, or at least part of the initial information that was put out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess time will tell. I'll definitely need to see a trailer, see where we're coming at. The fact that, to your point, the fact that the original director is directing the pilot definitely shows that he's committed to this series rather than the Continental. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how this turns out. But I do like the John Wick universe, but there is a point where, like, are we doing a little too much? Let's think about how many projects we're greenlighting right now in the John Wick universe.
I mean, Matt, how many Fast and the Furious movies are there?
Yeah, I don't see them doing series yet.
Yeah,
anyway.
Don't you? There's always room for more family.
You're not wrong. I am, honestly, to your point, I'm surprised that one of the members have not gotten their own Peacock original series yet. But who's to say that they're not going to get one eventually?
Still young. The day is still young.
The day is still young. Exactly. Don't put it past them, because that's going to be X11, the final family, and then they're like, but wait, go to Peacock where you can see all our feathers fly.
All our feathers fly.
And then we're gonna have like a spin-off series on all of Dom's kid grown up now, and he's gonna have his own series. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Probably not. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Speaking of biopics, and more biopics are coming. A Britney Spears biopic is in the works. Universal Pictures has landed the rights to the Britney Spears best-selling memoir, The Woman in Me, and has attached Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights, and Wicked director John M. Chu to direct the film. In the book, Spears chronicled her journey to pop stardom from her Mickey Mouse Club days through the highly publicized and scrutinized conservatorship case with remarkable candor and humor. The book was brutally honest and went in depth regarding her relationships with ex-boyfriend Justin Timberlake and her family, chronicling the predatory nature of those around her in and around an attempt to control her life.
Interesting.
This doesn't seem surprising that Universal gets the rights to this. I think this could be especially Britney Spears is very popular at the moment, considering everything that's been happening in her life right now, and the book highlighting a few things. I'm actually really surprised that John M. Chu is attached to direct this, given his history with the other films he's made so far.
Yeah, it does. This doesn't. Crazy Rich Asian doesn't scream Britney Spears biopic, but I mean, they're both pop stars. He's done In the Heights. He's doing Wicked.
Yeah.
So maybe he just feels very attached to this project. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm curious, because considering what he's done, so are we expecting a more like upbeat and lighter film? Because this seems like it would be pretty dark. Like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it almost should be dark. Not saying it needs to be, but I think a lot of this material that's in the book is going to be fairly serious. And so far, he's done lighthearted work. I mean, Crazy Rich Asians is a comedy. It had drama in it, but it's primarily a comedy. In the Heights is a musical, and then he continues that trend with Wicked. And Wicked's coming out. It's a two-parter, so it's 1 and 2. And so we're getting part 1 this year. We're getting part 2 next year. And, I mean, he's had a great relationship with Universal so far, so I think he's continuing that relationship, and maybe he got free reign to do his next project, and maybe this was part of it once Universal got the rights to Britney Spears' memoir.
Yeah, I guess my only question is the tone. Like, what is the tone of this film going to be? Because, like, it's a very, I mean, it's a sad story. Like I didn't watch the documentaries on the conservatorship or any of that stuff, and I haven't read the book, but I mean, it doesn't say, it's pretty sad. Like all the things that's happened to her, to her, I mean, all the people around her. So I'm curious to see the direction of this. I guess the biggest question is who's going to be Brittany.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. And I think, right off the heels of Alien Romulus, I think Kaylee Spaney can probably make a good Britney Spears, depending on what point of her life they want to feature. But she was also, she played Priscilla, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Elvis Presley's wife in the movie Priscilla.
She was fantastic.
And then, so she's already done a role kind of not similar, but like she's already done a biopic-esque role. And so I can kind of see her doing it again here. But yeah, and then also, I mean, aside from Priscilla, she was also great in Civil War and Alien Romulus. She's been pretty good. She's had one hell of a career right now, especially since I haven't really heard of her since these, last 3 films that came out that she did. So I think this could be a good role for her. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think the next big question is who will star as Britney Spears, and then what is the tone of this movie going to be?
True. All right, and lastly, we have some Pacific Rim news. A prequel series focusing on the franchise's origins is in the works at Legendary Entertainment. Eric Heiser, I really wish, excuse me, I wish I had practiced that beforehand. Screenwriter and Academy Award nominee for Best Adapted Screenplay for Arrival, which was a fantastic movie, one of my favorites, has signed a first-look television deal with Legendary Entertainment to develop the series. Under the deal, him and Carmen Lewis, who founded the production company Chronology, will develop and shepherd IP-driven and related projects for Legendary. News of the TV first look deals comes just under 3 weeks after it was announced that Chronology had a first look film deal at Sony Pictures. He's also credited with for writing the screenplay Bird Box, Lights Out, and 2010's A Nightmare on Elm Street, 2011's The Thing, and serving as creator of Netflix's Shadow and Bone. I'm here for it. I mean, I would have to rewatch. I think I like barely remember the original one, and I don't remember. I don't think I've seen the second one. But I'm here for it.
The second one was okay.
Robots fighting monsters. Why not?
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with that. I think Legendary Entertainment has a lot of. I think they saw the success of the Godzilla series that came out on Apple TV Plus, and I think they're taking that and was like, oh, people will watch big monsters. What about big robots fighting big monsters? we got to show that, right? I do find that having Eric Heiser as a showrunner for this, aside from writing Arrival, which is a great sci-fi film, his other work isn't that prominent. Bird Box was definitely very popular.
It's a good movie.
But Lights Out, a lot of people didn't really care about the 2010's Nightmare on Elm Street. People are hit or miss about 2011's The Thing, and The Shadow and Bone, I believe, lasted for about 2 or 3 seasons on Netflix. So, he hasn't really been on the public eye as much, and the fact that he not only signed a first look deal with Sony, but then a few weeks later signs a first look TV deal with Legendary, he must be pitching some great ideas for these studios to be like, oh, we want you to be making our content. So a prequel series, I don't know if we need that. I honestly, so far, the second one was okay. I don't think we need to look past the first movie, but I am not opposed for more big monsters fighting big robots. So if you can make it good and make it a series, I'm down for it.
Okay. All right. You sold me. I think it's at least worth checking out.
Yes, I think it's at least worth looking at the trailer and then maybe the pilot, and then we'll go from there. I'll give you the pilot Pacific Rim, and we'll see after that. But anyway, there we go. That's all the entertainment news we have for you guys this week. As always, you can check out all the latest and greatest news over on our social media channels. On our, that screwed me up. I had a whole thing planned, then you popped it up, and I was like, what do I typically say now? I want to say all of it now. But you can see all of our you can see all the latest and breaking news over to our social media channels first on our Facebook page at Box Office Bingers and our Instagram and Threads page at boxoffice_bingers. We'll post all the news over there first, and then we'll come back in the show and we'll talk about it. So with that, we're going to be diving into a fun segment we like to call What You Watchin'. I feel like it's been a while since we had this segment. So Ernesto, we'll toss it over to you. What have you been watching?
All right. So I'm going to start with these two, with Big Mama's House and Grown Ups, because we were sick at home and like I wanted some movies to show my son, and so we settled on these two. Grown Ups, I mean, it's a classic movie, so good. Like, well, I don't know what else I could say about that. And I will say we watched Big Mama's House. I remember liking that movie as a kid. And I just feels like it hit a little different as an adult. Like I was like, oh, I don't know if my son should be watching this. There were certainly some aspects that I was like, oh, that's a little much. It's like, but it's kind of marketed as a kids movie because like one of the one of the main leads, it's her son, and he's in the film, and there's like a lot of good like kid feel good moments. There's like the moment where he's playing basketball with the kids who are picking on him, and it's all about the kids. So I felt like this movie's geared towards families, but there's just some things like, I don't know. It just maybe after all these years, I don't think it has lasted over time. Because certain jokes like over sexualized jokes that just didn't hit right. I was like, oh, like of him, like there's like this whole thing with him like being sexually attracted to the female lead, but obviously it's because he's a man, and like, and I get it, but like the way they played it off, it just does not hit the same. It was fine. Yeah. It's a fun movie, but it just seems a little cringy now.
I feel like certain comedies, looking back at it today, just doesn't land the way. I feel like comedy is specific.
Yes.
Because comedy is of its time. And if it's not a universal comedy, like maybe ones that is beloved by let me rephrase. A comedy that can reach a wide audience. If the comedy is very specific, and especially of its time, and it's making jokes of its time, then it's hard to watch it, 10 years later, where you're like, oh, what's this joke about again? Oh, that's not okay. You can't say that now. That's not a good joke. So, yeah, I kind of feel you there. And I've had this happen to me as well. I explained it recently with Ted, that I remember rewatching it not too long ago, and it just doesn't hold up, and I don't find it as funny as it was when I first saw it about 12 years ago now. But the series kind of makes up for it, because the series is really good.
Yeah, I agree.
But the series came out in 2024, so
was
the
that
jokes
this year?
are more.
Was it that?
That was this year.
Yeah, that seems like forever ago that show came.
It does feel like that was 9 months ago when the show came out. Where we just binge so many things, it just kind of goes in the back burner. We have to remember that show come at the end of the year recap, which is quickly approaching.
I know. We're already over half. We're already in September. But here we go.
Yeah.
I've also started Abbott Elementary, even though the new season's getting ready to start. I'm finally getting around to starting the season that's currently on streaming online right now. And I have to tell you, I really enjoy it. I think it's done really well. The one, there's an episode where she has to get an interpreter, and I just love the nuance that they present with Janine having to go through that process, because we always look at people who are in higher positions like, oh, well, if I was in that position, I would get it right away and I would be able to do this. Right. And it's her having to go through that process of realizing that sometimes it's not as easy as you think. Like, there's just so much red tape surrounding around the things that you're trying to get done, that it doesn't always work out like that. And it was like they do this whole back and forth, like, oh, you just got to get this form signed here, and you got to go see this person there.
Yeah.
And it's like she's wasted all this time, and the last person gave her directions to somebody who would help, and they directed her to her office.
Yes.
I really liked it, but it was just like having her have that level of understanding, and it worked out in the end because it also played to the fact that if you want to get things done, that you are going to have to go the extra mile. You're going to have to be the problem solver. I just thought it was a really well constructed narrative. I thought it was just done really well. I haven't finished the season yet, but I'm definitely enjoying the ride. Did you get a chance? You finished it, I believe, right?
Yeah. I finished season 3, right? Season 3, yeah, season 3. I agree with you. I think I think if anyone. For season 3, Janine had the strongest arc that season, because her going into that role definitely paints a new perspective into the Abbott Elementary school system. Just, going into being a superintendent and being part of the people who make changes, and yet you can see the process that they're obviously making light of it, but it's also kind of grounded in realness. Is like, yeah, it's not that easy just to get stuff done. And even if you are the right person for the job, you still have to go through so much red tape to get there. So I think it's kind of really cool that they're showcasing that in a comedy like this. And just time and time again, this show is proving its worth of how kind of, now I wouldn't say groundbreaking it is, but it definitely being funny, but also shedding a light on a topic that maybe not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I'm excited to see where the season ends, and I guess I'm lining up because I believe the fall premiere should be coming pretty soon.
It's in October. Yeah, October.
Just setting myself up. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah,
that's exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You were just waiting. Exactly. That's all.
I also watched the half season of Cobra Kai, Part 1, which they give you 5 episodes, and you know what? It's so damn cheesy. But damn, it's so good. It's just like the fight choreography is still pretty good. Once again, like the very nature is very like 80s cheesy, but it just works. It works for the tone of the show. It works for how they present everything. I'm here for it. I can't wait till part 2 comes out. I'm really excited, and I don't believe you've had a chance to start this one, have you?
I have not, no, and I feel like you've been telling me to start this since the show came out eons ago, and I still have yet to kind of get that barrier of me kind of starting it. I do find it kind of interesting. I mean, so far, again, I mean, the show's kind of existence is quite interesting due to the fact that it first started on YouTube as when it was part of YouTube Red, and it lasted for 2 seasons on there, and it got canceled on YouTube because no one was watching it, and they figured, oh, the show just sucks. And then Netflix was like, no, the show doesn't suck, just no one's watching it because it's on YouTube Red. Yep. So then Netflix picked it up for a 3rd season, and then all of a sudden it blew up. And then from there, they're now going on to season 6, which is crazy about, like, they just did that over the summer. I do find it interesting to do this in 3 parts. I wonder what the thought process was in doing this, what kind of fits into their algorithm, because for me, watching 5 episodes and then half like in July and then have to wait the other 5 in November, and then there's still another 5 to go that they're not releasing until later in 2025. I don't know, I personally don't like that. Just give it to me all at once, or do it on a week-to-week basis, or I'm fine with a 2-parter, but not 3. 3 is a little too much in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like I've already forgotten, but I wonder if they do that so that people go back and rewatch before, like leading into it. It's just it's just a way to get people to go back and rewatch their content before, as they're leading into it. Because I don't know if I'll have the time, but if I had the time, I would go back and rewatch the first 5 episodes before the new season, before the next half came out, and then finally towards the end. Like, and then I understand the stopping points, but I wonder if it has something to do with the movie that's coming out.
That's true. There is a new movie that's coming out they end up pushing it back to next summer. So it's in 2025, making 2025 a stacked year for movies. They just keep stacking on each other. Next year's summer is going to be crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see that it's still holding up after all these years. It's still Netflix is still a good home for Cobra Kai.
Absolutely. And that's it. That's all. I mean, besides what we're sharing, but that's all I got.
Okay. So I'm going to start by what you're watching by something that Ernesto has no idea about, and it kind of maybe confused him a little bit. Yeah. Because you're like, is this cat video? You talking about some cats? What are you doing?
What's happening?
What are you talking about, Matt? What's happening? Okay, so this is a journey. This is a journey that I'm about to take you guys. You ready for this?
Okay.
There, you know, on Google, it tells you the like, here's your recommended articles you think you'll like. Mm-hmm. And so the article took me like right off, like the first headline was very like eye-catching, and it said, I sat through a 73-minute video about cats, like at Cat Fest, and I was like, what is this? What are they talking about? And so I read into the article, and I kind of want to, like, I'm so unprepared, but I want to get this article back up because I really appreciate the beginning of this article, and I do not have it prepped. I'm going to take the time right now.
If you send it to me, I can pull it up.
I gotta find the Variety. It was a Variety article that was here, and I'm pulling it up now. It's called Cat Video. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. I'm going to send you the article. This is poor planning on my part, and you got it.
Yeah. So give me a second. Okay. Well, go ahead. You can do your thing.
If you need to send me to you, you got it. There it is. Okay. So in this article, the headline was, I went to a movie theater to watch 73 minutes of cat videos. And I was like, what is this? This has my interest. And then the first paragraph, as you scroll down, got my interest even more. And it says, I don't even like cats. And yet here I am, slightly hungover on a Saturday morning, shoving popcorn in my face at one of New York's finest cinemas, watching hundreds of kitty videos back to back to back on the big screen. Welcome to Cat Fest, which is a less of a festival than a film. Well, a 73-minute medley of cat videos compiled from around the world and screened in more than 100 movie theaters across the U.S. and Canada. And from there, I was like, what is this? To me, that first paragraph was like something that made me read the whole article. And from there, at the end of the article, I was like, they said, oh, go find a cat fest near you, for the most part. And then I found one. So if you don't mind going back to I saw this poster that was recommended on. So I went to the website, and they were like, hey, this is Cat Fest, and this is the photo. If you go back to the poster, this was the photo that we got, right? And I was like, this is fun. And then I was like, just out of curiosity, where are they even playing this? And I thought this was over. This Cat Video Fest was like done. And then I saw, if you don't mind going to the next image, I saw that it was playing at the Enzian. And I was like, no way is this playing at the Enzian. Not only was it playing at the Enzian, but the first 3 showings of this was already sold out. They had That's 2 funny. At the end of August and 1 at the beginning of September. And I was like, well, we have September 1st at 1 o'clock. Megan, I think I know what we're doing on this day. and so like, it's funny because I didn't actually say that, but in my head, that's what I said. And I actually presented this the same way I found out. I said, hey, look at this article. And then she read it. It's like, oh, this is quite funny. And then I was like, you know what's even better? And then I showed her the Enzian website, and she was like, oh my God, it's coming here. And I was like, yes, it is. And
we're going.
Just like and we're going. And she's like, yeah, we're doing this. And so just kind of reading off what it says here is the world's #1 cat video festival is coming back to the Enzian. A portion of the proceeds from this event ticket sales will go to Port Pet Rescue by Judy, who will be in attendance with adorable kittens, which she was. Cat Video Fest is a compilation reel of the latest and best cat videos, culled from countless hours of unique submissions and source animations, music videos, and classic internet powerhouses. Cat Video Fest is a joyous communal experience only available in theaters, and raises money for cats in need throughout partnerships with local cat charities, animal welfare organizations, and charities to best serve cats in the area. As a cat owner myself, I felt like this is the perfect event to go to. And I thought, because I the algorithm knows me. I watch a lot of cat videos in general. It's like, hey, you got a cat. You like a cat. Go look at this funny cat video. It's like, it's funny. And there was a part of me that was like, is this going to work for 70 minutes? Is this going to be worth my time for 70 minutes? And Ernesto, I'm here to tell you that it absolutely was. It was fantastic. I didn't think, like, it was, everything they said about it was true. It's a fun communal experience. The theater was packed. And most of the ticket sales went to help support Pet Rescue by Judy, and they had a raffle for you to get some cat goodies. And we submitted $5. We didn't win the raffle, but hey, another $5 to go to the cause. They had kitties in attendance that you can pet, and and it was available for adoption as well. So like, I don't know, everything about it seemed like it was good. We were able to go to the bar and get some pre-drinks and then more drinks inside, because this guy said he was hungover, so it's probably best served when you're drinking.
I guess.
Best watched when you're drinking.
Makes it more enjoyable.
And exactly. And so, yeah, if you don't mind going back to the poster, like it was for a limited time, and I don't know, I feel like it's one of those unique experiences that they said it was only available in theaters. Like if you watch this at home, it's one thing. It's like as if you're watching a normal, like a 5-minute clip of a cat doing something silly. But seeing that in a movie theater setting, it made for an interesting 2 hours. And it was fun. It was a good time. We had a good time in the movie theater. Another weird experience, but I think this is what the great thing about the movie theater is that you can, doesn't matter what you're watching, it can help. I don't know, like, I think that's the best thing about going to the movie theaters, is that it can be adaptable for multiple different reasons. It could be you can watch anything on the screen, but the main function is for you to kind of be together with people who also want to laugh at cats for 70 minutes. So
you know what? As long as you had a good time, that's all that matters.
Ernesto, would you do this? Would you go to a cat video fest?
I don't know, because I'm also allergic to cats. So
there's that. That's a big.
I'll watch cat video. I'd watch a cat video, but like an event where a bunch of cats are at, it's probably not where I'm gonna be. But I am curious about the appeal that humans have towards cat videos, because cat videos on YouTube are like super high. Like, I'm just vaguely curious, because I'm pretty sure that. Let's see, just cat video. What are the 8 million views? I mean, I've seen some that have like hundreds of millions of views. So, cat meowing to attract other cats. 143 million views. Like, I get it. Like, people just love cats. I understand. I get it.
I think also at the end of the day, that knowing that most of this goes to a good cause and helps a local, pet. It was a Pet Rescue by Judy. Mm-hmm. Like, we know that's going to a good cause, so we know that it's kind of like people who love cats supporting other cat organizations. I feel like it was a win-win all around. It was a good family fun event for kids to even go watch, because it's cat videos. Yeah. And like I said, I didn't think it was going to be entertaining for the whole 70 minutes, but it really was. And it was kind of broken into like, this is the drama category. This is the comedy category. This is the action adventure category. I don't know what placed them in these categories, because they all look the same to me. But it was entertaining. Like the same thing last year when we went to go see Taylor Swift, the concert, the Eras Tour concert. It's something different. But when you're in a room full of people that want to see the same thing and are excited about it, it brings a certain energy to the room that you can only have in the movie theater. And I feel like the vibe that I had watching Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour concert, was the same vibe that I got watching these cat video fest. Like it's I feel like it would be something similar to the same vibe you would get if you go watch an old movie in theaters again. Like if they re-released a movie into the theaters, the people who are going to go watch it are definitely going to be people who want to go see these movies in the theaters. And so the vibe is going to be already hyped, because it's not like you're expecting to see something new. You're going to expect to see something you love on the big screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think this definitely definitely helped give another good reason why going to the movie theaters is such a fun experience, no matter what you're watching, whether it's a new movie or just watching cat videos. And the Enzian is a great place to do it. If you live in here local in Orlando, you don't really need an excuse to go to the Enzian, but it's been around for so long, and it just holds a special place with the community. And every time you have a chance to go and support the Enzian, definitely go out and try to do that. So aside from watching cat videos in a movie theater, there were a movie that I also saw called Jackpot, a new movie on Amazon Prime Video, starring Awkwafina and John Cena. And you know what? I really wanted to watch this because it was directed by Paul Feig, who is one of my, not my favorite director, but he's also done great comedies lately with Bridesmaids, The Heat, and Spy were great. He also did Simple Favor, which is not really a comedy, it's more of a drama thriller, and that was amazing. I thought, oh man, this director is like a sleeper hit. And then he comes out with movies that are not that great. And I forgot the last movie he did that wasn't great. And I was like, ooh, that's not good. And then he came out with this one, and his streak is not lending himself any favors. This was a rough watch. Megan enjoyed it. I did not.
It looks like a rough
thought
watch.
It was very.
The poster doesn't lend itself to think that it's going to be good.
Yeah, and especially coming from Paul Feig, it definitely didn't seem like a movie that he would direct, which it just seems kind of really out of left field for me. And the premise is really weird. It's like everybody. It's like in a not too distant future where if you win the jackpot lottery, which a lot of people invest into, people have the right to kill you for the ticket within 12 hours of you releasing, like you winning. And so people are alerted that there was a winner and you are the winner, and then people can kill you. And the first person who kills you within 12 hours takes your ticket and wins the money. Otherwise, if you can survive within 12 hours, then you live and you keep the prize money.
Oh, okay.
You see, it doesn't seem like a really thought out premise, but you were able to get Awkwafina and John Cena in a movie together. Also, Simu Lee is in it as well. He played more the antagonist of the movie, which I was like, okay, that's, he's definitely into his comedic side after, even especially with Barbie, one of his latest movies as well.
True.
So yeah, it just didn't land for me at the very end of the movie when the credits were rolling, was honestly my favorite part, not because the credits were rolling and the movie was over, but they had bloopers at the end of the movie, and that was way funnier than anything that was in the actual movie. So it feels like one of those movies that they and the actors and the crew had a great time making it, but the end product was not as fun as it was making a movie. So that's just me. I don't think this plot is landed right. John Cena was fine. I mean, he basically played another version of himself, like Ricky Snicky, same deal. He's going into a new realm. He was our action star, now he's our comedic star. So I don't know. It wasn't a movie for me.
Okay.
So, moving on, we got some documentaries to talk about. First thing, The Anti-Social Network, Memes to Mayhem. This is on Netflix. Pretty solid documentary. It kind of goes over the dark side of social media, specifically what led to the January 6th riot over at the Capitol. It says a group of lonely teenagers formed an online community bonded over their isolation, and their collective beliefs warped reality. This also kind of showcases the creation of 4chan, and then how that kind of culminates into, and I think they did a really good job of like showcasing, like I said, the dark side of social media, of how you are in a community of like-minded people, and that might not always be a good thing, and then what you were making fun of turned into a belief, and then you kind of hone on to that, and then eventually leads into the January 6th riots. And like you saw that, like, it's kind of eye-opening. It's like something as simple as starting, 4chan grew into something that led into the January 6th riots. It was kind of crazy to see that kind of build toward that. And it didn't start that way. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be, but just the people that kind of got on it, and then it kind of what it grew into. It's kind of crazy development there. So definitely recommend watching that if you're interested.
Okay.
It was an interesting, I wouldn't say eye-opening, but it's kind of crazy to just see like where it started and then where it ended up. So there's that documentary. The next one, Dirty Pop, boy band scam. Megan was really looking forward to this one, mainly because it was showcasing on our. I want to get the description right here. It was following Lou Pearlman, the music mogul who created and exploited some of the biggest boy bands in '90s, including Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and O's Town, Rises and Falls. So it mainly focuses on Lou Pearlman, basically the person who orchestrated and kind of gave birth to what we know as boy bands today. And it was an interesting documentary. It's very quick. It's also on Netflix, 3 parts, and it showcases. It's honestly not what I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to leave that to whoever wants to watch this documentary. I didn't think what was going to go. I didn't think that the documentary that I was getting, what I walked into, was a documentary I was getting. So it's not what you think it is. But if you know the story, then you know exactly where it's going. But if you don't, like I didn't, then it was an interesting 3 episodes. Each episode is about 40 minutes long. So acted as if you watched like about a 2-hour movie or so.
Okay. I'm interested.
So, or a little bit long.
Because I don't know the story, so.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And I think, scam is the Dirty Pop, a boy band scam. It's interesting to see how he developed the idea of a boy band and then what that turned into, and then the machine that it turned into later on, and how much he was involved with that brand for quite some time, and then what happened afterward. So definitely recommend watching that. Next documentary I had the pleasure of watching. This one kind of took me by surprise. It's called Skywalker's A Love Story. And this was, I wouldn't be surprised if it's up there for the Oscar season, mainly because of its cinematography. This movie, this felt less like a documentary and more of a movie. I feel like I was following these two people on a journey, and I think it was told extremely well. Like, this was a really well-told documentary. And it's about the daring couple travels worldwide to climb a 118-story megatall skyscraper, the Mercata 18 in the Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I said that all wrong. I apologize. Attempting a bold acrobatic stunt on the spare salvage both their careers and relationships. So basically, these two individuals do these death-defying, illegal acrobatic stunts on some of the tallest fixtures around the world. And they're doing this illegally because they're not supposed to be up there. Yeah. So we get to see that. Like, we get to see about their stories, what their attraction was to even doing these, because they did this separately. So, like, they were always had this fascination of just like climbing these buildings and kind of being places they're not supposed to be. Eventually they meet each other, form this love story, started being a couple. And then from there, between her style and his photography and both of them and their death-defying desires, came up with these. I guess they're very popular on social media because of the photography they were able to get. So they're really photographers. So as a person who likes videography and photography, you get some amazing shots out of this, and it's crazy to think about. But then there's also a level of danger out of this as well, because you're like, these people are crazy. Like, they're going to these skyscrapers, and like, as you can see, they're just like doing these acrobatic one hand, like they're jumping to get the photo and then catching themselves when they come back down. It's quite crazy. Like, to me, it was very eye-opening. I was like, my God, I had no idea about this world. And this, like, and then they told a really, really effective story as well, because it started off in a certain place. And then there was one of those situations like, we're here now, and then we're going to go back and tell you the story and how we got here, and then we're going to continue telling that story from that point on. And I thought that was a good, like, the beginning definitely hooked me. And then I was like nonstop intrigued for almost an hour and 40 minutes that this was. So, again, if you haven't watched Skywalker's A Love Story, I do feel like that in some cases, it can be up there for an award season. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Oh, I'm intrigued. This sounds good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And last documentary I want to talk about is one that I've been really looking forward to watch. It's been on the watch list for a while. Still waiting for Megan to go watch it, but it's Movie Pass, Movie Crash. It's a documentary about Movie Pass. And this was right up my wheelhouse. I had so much fun watching this documentary because I feel like it's one of those documentaries where I was like, I was there for the start. I remember when this was announced. I remember picking up my card. I remember using the card. I remember abusing the card.
Same.
And then I remember its downfall.
Yep.
Like I was involved for all of this. So then kind of seeing it rehashed, I was like, oh my God, there's so much I didn't know about this company that I invested into. And I wanted this to succeed. But ultimately it failed. It's back now. It's doing, it had a long road to recovery, Movie Pass did. And this documentary explains some of that as well. And right now you can still go to moviepass.com and get yourself a Movie Pass. And right now the economics of it and the payment plans and what you get out of it is much more doable than what they previously advertised of $10 a month for unlimited movies, one movie a day. That wasn't a sustainable business model. No. What they have now is definitely a more sustainable business model for sure. But it took a long, crazy journey, in my opinion, to get there. And so if you were anyone who has owned a Movie Pass or want to know more about it, this was a fantastic documentary. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I do want to check it out.
You should. This should be the next documentary that you watch. Whenever you have an itch for a documentary, pop on this one.
Okay.
90 minutes. All right. Solid. Easy. But that's all I got as far as what I've been watching. But we do have one that we've collectively watched together, which was the Umbrella Academy 4th and final season. So we're going to do like a little mini review on kind of the recap of season 4 as well as the series as a whole. So Ernesto, we'll start with you.
I think it started out okay. Like it was good. The one thing I really liked out of the entire storyline was the Diego and Lila storyline. I felt like that. I felt like they made that go somewhere. Like just the fact that they had them, kind of go through that. Even though like 5 is supposed to be like this stoic character, and they kind of like, I don't know. I feel like they kind of changed him in the end. Like everybody kind of changed a little bit. Like. Yeah. It just kind of was a mess, to be honest. Like I really liked the Diego and Lila storyline. That was the one thing I really liked. Just the effects of time travel woven into like a story of deceit and marriage, but like they set that up to be done so well, and then what a flop of like, oh, he told him. It's like, all right, well, let's go eat dinner. It's like, what? Okay, but like, and then. My main thing is the ending. It's like, I understand the sacrifice, but like, that's it. Nobody mentions him. Nobody in the family remembers him. So literally the last 3 seasons have been for nothing. Like this was all for nothing. Yeah. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Just to keep in mind, we are talking spoilers here. If that hasn't already been known already. Yeah, you know what? As a person who just finished watching this not but 2 hours ago, I was like, I sped watched through this. Not to say that I sped through like time wise, I invested the same amount of time into this. I didn't watch this like 0.5 speed, but I started this movie at the time of this recording. I started this show yesterday, and because you said like we're going to talk about this, I'm like, oh my God, I got to like speed through this. So I watched like 3 episodes yesterday and 3 episodes today, so I can catch up with our review here. And yeah, I will have to say that it was a little bit of a mess. This final season, I think it started off strong. Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. It was a strong start, especially the first episode. The first episode established that we are in a new timeline. We no longer have our powers. It's been 6 years later, and now it's been a while since we've been together as a family. And you can feel the family struggle within everybody in that first episode. We know where they are, we know what they've kind of been through, and we know some of the struggles that they've had. And then at the end of that episode, we have the inciting incident of like, okay, this is where our story's going to begin from here. And I thought, okay, this is a solid first episode that we have. Then we also get an introduction, which I was not expecting, of Nick Offerman and who else was in this episode? Who plays his wife? In the show and in real life, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Megan Mullally. That's her name. What show was she? Will and Grace, I believe.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yes, Will and Grace. Yes, I believe they are actually married in real life, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, they play Gene and Gene, which honestly, they were the best part of season 4. I really like their character. They offered something completely new to this conspiracy. We always have our quote-unquote villain throughout the seasons, and I think they did a really good job with them. How do you feel about Gene and Gene?
I thought they were the best part of it. I just didn't. I thought they underutilized them, and then they just kind of like vaguely killed them off. They just like weirdly killed them off in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once we started getting past the,
And so I guess his wife she's a squid monster too, or did the squid monster take over his wife? That was David Cross, because then that whole thing at the end, because he killed David Cross, took over Gene as
Nick Offerman.
But then when he took it off, it was his wife.
It was Reginald's wife.
But then, the way she killed him, is she a squid monster? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think so. Reginald is an alien, which we knew for a while now, and they take skins of other humans. So I'm assuming that she is also the same alien because that's his wife, and we found out at the very end of the season, which I believe we also always knew, that he went to this world because his world was destroyed, and he released whatever gave them powers to get his wife back. And this was the timeline that he was able to get his wife back. So that's what I gathered from that. But then his wife was like, I should have been dead, and so now I'm going to destroy the world. That part was a little iffy to me. I didn't quite understand that part of it all. But I understand that she believed that she should have been dead and he had no right to bring her back. But I understand how that correlates to now we also need to destroy this world as well.
Yeah, it was just weird. And then we go through all this with all the other characters just to have them all die together in the end. And then the family's playing in the field. Nobody mentions what happens. And that's just it. It's like, oh, that was it? That was the end? Okay.
Yeah, before we talk about the actual ending, I want to go back into episode 5, which was the before the finale, and I did find it interesting that they had a plan to we have this train state, we have this subway that we introduced, and the subway gets you to alternate timelines, but keeps you in the same time. It goes to alternate timelines at the same date, I guess.
Same point in time.
So same point in time. So if they were able to find the point in time that Ben died, then they can travel back in time and stop that from happening. Or no.
Yes.
Yeah,
you said that right.
Yes, yeah. So that was the plan, and I was on board for that plan. And then all of a sudden we abandoned that plan when they got lost in the subway station, and then they were lost for upwards of almost 7 years, which her and Five and Lila were able to form a connection due to the fact that they kind of been stuck together for so long. And I'm kind of interested because this was the part of the show where I feel like this was a complete left field, something to introduce on the second to last episode of the whole series finale, to introduce this romance. We knew that Lila and Diego was having some marriage issues, but I didn't think it was going to lead into a romance between Five and Lila. So I was I was a little bit confused by that kind of change of direction, because we abandoned the mission because we got lost down there and we were spending 7 years trying to figure it out. And technically they shouldn't figure it out because a version of him left a book there explaining how to get around. Mm-hmm. But like to me, as much as that felt like it came out of left field, it also felt like some of the most interesting parts of the Umbrella Academy of how time can affect a lot of different factors. And obviously the show's always meant around time travel, but this is one of those like interesting side effects within time, like the kind of the not benefits, but the disadvantages of time traveling. You can get stuck in time and what that can do to you as a person and kind of wear you down. And I liked it, but just how it came about seemed odd. What do you think about that?
Well, that's what I was saying. This whole that episode and just kind of that story element was like was one of my favorite parts of the whole season, because they're on this mission, but then they get lost. But then it becomes, well, now they're lost together. They've been lost together for 7 years. Everybody else, and we see when they come back, it's only been a few
hours.
It's only been a few hours, but they've literally lived an entire lifetime together. What would have made it even more interesting is if she had gotten pregnant and if they had come back with a child.
Yeah.
But they didn't give us any time to explore that. Like we could have gotten like 2 or 3. I would have watched maybe about 2 episodes of that. I could have gotten another episode of that, fully flush that storyline out, because everything else was just kind of like just like throwing shit to the wall. Like Elliot Page and Hargreaves, their whole dynamic together when they're just screaming at him. It's like, all right, you're angry. We get it.
Well, to your point there, like there was a moment where like I feel like we were together as a team, we were looking for Jennifer, and I was like, okay, here's a story. We saw Gene and Jean hit the car and steal Jennifer for their reasons. At the time, we didn't know, and everything felt like we were going like in a linear fashion. And then all of a sudden, that was the first 3 episodes. The back half of this felt like, what happened? Like all of a sudden, Gene and Jean hit your car, and we just started separating our stories.
Yeah.
Like that to me doesn't make any sense. Why was Victor and Reginald had their own story? Why did we get 2 episodes of Luther and Diego fighting with the CIA? I have no idea. Why was Klaus going through like he ended up getting the powers back, and then he owed debt to somebody, so then he was being almost like a worker as a medium to pay off his debt. That ended up having him go down the side story of him getting like finding money in a gravesite, then him getting stuck in the grave, and then having Allison and her daughter come and find him eventually. It's like all of that stuff just felt like filler.
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing filler at the end of the series?
Yeah.
Like, no, we should not be doing that at all.
It should all be wrap up.
We had, yes, all of this should be wrap up, especially when this already has an abbreviated season. Season 1, 2, and 3 had 10 episodes. Season 4, for whatever reason, only had 6.
Yeah.
So,
and then
the fact that they were building,
and even then there was filler. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, exactly. That's the part that doesn't make any sense to me. Because then eventually they kind of get back together, but not really. Ben and Jennifer have this weird, like, connection. Not weird. They have this connection with each other that turn into this, the cleanse is what they call it, and turn like these big monsters. It's like, where did that come from? Like, it just felt a lot. Some of this just came out of left field. And then when we come down to the final of, like, the finality of it all, it definitely feels underwhelming. Even looking at the IMDb score right now for the last episode, sits at a 4.8. Obviously, people did not like how the series ended, and it's really unfortunate because there's a lot of great stuff in this on this whole show.
Yeah,
like season 1, 2, and 3 provided some of the best like cinematography, some of it decent story, a really cool action pieces. I thought when Diego and the family were fighting in like that small town, and we saw Diego kind of like jump and warp all those bullets around him, and then fires it back at the people that were shooting at him. Really cool.
Yeah.
I was expecting this big final battle with this whole family coming together to use their powers, and instead they didn't do any of that.
Yeah, Klaus is like, I could fly now. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't learn new powers at the end of the show. Like, if this was the end of the season, maybe, but like, oh, I can fly now? Like, no. We don't discover new powers at the very end of this. This doesn't make any sense. And also, it meant nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. It all meant nothing. That's the problem.
Yeah. Like, also, like, it lessens the emotional weight behind it as well. And like all those people that we saw at the very end, like they are living a normal life all together in like this field and, you know, having a good time. And we're seeing all these characters from the previous seasons all died, mind you. All these characters died. So we can also assume that the people that Lila tried to save, her family at the end of it, also died. So, like, I don't know. Like, I guess you can take it as you want, but like, it was just them getting swarped up by it, and then it just ending. Like, the world officially ended with the show, and then they came up with this arbitrary, like, oh, the only reason why there's multiple timelines because the main timeline this happened. I was like, that didn't make any sense. The ending was a little bit frustrating to watch, but the season did have its moments, but it definitely ended on an anticlimactic note, which is sad to see.
It's just, it makes you feel like the rest, like literally I just wasted all this time watching the show for nothing. Like, one of the most disappointing endings. Season 1 and 2 were probably the strongest. I would argue probably season 1 was probably the strongest. And it's kind of just been on a slow decline since season 1.
I would argue that season 2 was really good. I really enjoyed season 2.
I liked it too. I liked both.
Umbrella Academy.
I liked both the first 2 seasons the most. But then but I just felt like even then, like, the first 2 seasons are good, but even season 2 is still a step down from season 1. I guess is what I mean. Like, it's still good, but it's still not season 1 Umbrella Academy.
And then we also had the Sparrow Academy that was introduced in season 3, which also offered some interesting dynamics. But what I was really confused about is at the very end of season 3, they showed Sloan, which was who got married to Luther at the end of season 3. And then where did she go after that? We got zero mention of what happened to her character after this. And now, unless I don't remember.
Yeah, I just don't remember.
I don't remember what happened to her at the end of season 3, but I'm pretty sure she was at the very end of season 3 when they entered this new alternate timeline. And yeah, I don't know what happened. I swore she was there, but she could have died at the end of season 3 and I forgot. But if she didn't, where'd she go? And then also, like, we have Allison's husband that was showcased in this alternate timeline that he was back with her. And then this new season starts and he's nowhere to be found. They just said they separated. So I was like, all right, well, I guess there's no reason of showing him
guess
at the last season anyway.
Like, you're not needed.
So, yeah.
And we don't need to talk about them separating. We just it's just a thing that happened. Doesn't matter.
Just a thing that happened. I do agree with you. I really enjoyed this show. The ending was not. It was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks to invest all this time into a show to have a disappointing ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Waste of time. Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it had. I think I enjoyed the journey, just not the end.
Yeah, there were some good moments.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe, obviously the creators were maybe struggling to end this, and they knew that this was the last season they were going to get. So
yeah,
it happens sometimes. It is what it is, and that's on the Umbrella Academy season 4 for you, unfortunately. But here we are, another day, new show. We're Box Office Bingers. We move on, and now. We're going to be moving on to our spoiler review of our foreign film of the month, a film from Thailand, the 2023 film Hunger, a movie that kind of honestly sold me by the trailer. I was really sold by the trailer, and I feel like this is a good movie for us to watch. So Ernesto, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on Hunger?
I really enjoyed this movie, just right off the bat. Like, I love a good cooking movie. Kind of gave me vague little small hints of The Bear with the showcasing of the food, especially like this upscale dining. That opening line, winners are the ones who hunger the most. It's just so good. We start with Oi, I think is how you...
Oi. I think it's Oi.
Oi. Yeah. She's cooking at her family's restaurant. She's scouted out by Tone. He's the junior sous chef of Hunger. run by Chef Paul, who's kind of like an extreme Gordon Ramsay, like a demented Gordon Ramsay is basically who Chef Paul is. And obviously she's working in this small kitchen, and so she accepts the invitation, and we kind of go on the journey from there. And this movie is just riddled with so many good moments. Like it gets really dark right in the middle. They showcase a lot of dark elements that I just was not ready for. But I think the movie serves well to just talking about like the idea of hunger, not only like physical hunger, but like spiritual hunger for like wanting to do better, and just how that relates to people in society, and just what the idea of status, and what do these upscale means in terms of status. And like I really loved it. It had a lot of great themes to explore. So kind of just before we walk through it all, what are your initial thoughts?
No, I agree with you. I think for me, first and foremost, the message was strong here.
Absolutely.
Like so many themes that they were kind of playing with, and the idea, just the title, hunger. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That word hunger meant so many different things in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that you are hungry, obviously eating, but you're hungry for more, for wanting a better life, for a better social status. Like that need, that drive that you have. It was the theme throughout the whole movie, and you definitely saw that in kind of multiple different factions. Obviously, with Chef Paul and Oi, like those are our two main leads here. But eventually we got to see how Chef Paul got to the way he is, and then we slowly get to see how Oi got to the way that she was. And I think also this, going off the very first kind of point of the movie, was that do you want to be someone special? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was also a drive there as well. Like you can be an ordinary chef, or you can be someone special. And she kind of got absorbed into that when she was like, should I accept this offer to go work for Chef Paul? And you see that like she was researching him, and then notices like the big thing is like, do you want to be someone special? And I think that kind of line, that idea kind of resonated throughout the whole movie, of being someone special, something obviously above average. So yeah, I really enjoy this movie. There were turns in here that I wasn't expecting.
Yes.
And yeah, primarily because even based off the trailer, I thought this movie was going to take a dark turn into cannibalism, and it didn't. And
I could see how you would think that.
Especially in the trailer, they're like eating like this blood, and I was like, oh, here we go. We later found out that it's not blood, but it was supposed to enact a different meaning, and then a different meaning in the movie, and then a different meaning for the audience in that moment that they were showcasing in the trailer. I thought it was.
Which moment because I didn't watch the trailer.
The moment where they were like, when Oi did her first knife, meat sizzle, and then they end up turning into like, I think the theme of the night was like blood and something.
Yes.
And so like the movie in the trailer was showcasing like all these people eating the meat, but they had like this blood, like this redness coming down from their mouth. And so I thought it was actual blood, and I was like, oh man, we're gonna resort to cannibalism in this movie. This movie's gonna be crazy. But it wasn't anything like about that at all. Definitely didn't go down that direction. So that to me is something completely different than what I thought it was, in a way better light. So yeah, let's kind of go through some of these plot lines.
Okay, so as we mentioned, we started off always in her family's restaurant. Tones scouts her out from he's a sous chef of hunger. She accepts the invitation, and then unbeknownstly gets thrown into an audition along this culinary school graduate. He has him cook fried rice, and so he can kind of see the difference. And I thought it was an interesting dynamic because he comes as they showcase that dynamic perfectly, whereas he is like he's the educated chef, where she's like the street chef, and he's going for the new rice, but she knows that day old rice is better when you make to make fried rice, and so just
Yeah.
by on that
I
alone,
thought that was a
he immediately picked. He was gonna pick her because her inclination to go was to go for the better option.
Yeah, honestly, that to me was a great
Yeah,
scene.
absolutely.
Like that, because not only did it provide like a good back and forth, but it like as well as this movie did very well at was it provided tension to the scene.
Yes.
We see Chef Paul just enter the room and everyone's like standing to attention. So he already brings this presence to each scene that he is, and every time he enters the room. And then you have Oi, who's like kind of like doesn't really sure why she's here, but she's just here. And then you have the culinary student who knows exactly why he's here, and he is like, "Oh, I'm the top of my class. I'm definitely going to get this job." And even when he got rejected and then he got slapped in the face, is like, pull yourself together, man. Like, you're not getting this job. Go home.
Shut up.
and he even told his sous chef, he was like, those culinary school grads have no imagination. And I find that very interesting to see like where this movie could progress eventually, but him saying that, hey, they have no imagination, they're not cut out to be working in my kitchen. And then we see what happens shortly after she puts on this, the uniform, and then she tells him, or he tells her, to cut the meat in a certain way.
That scene, see, to me, that scene was the most stress. I was so stressed out watching her cut the Wagyu beef. It's like you could tell, like he's giving her all this such specific instructions. Although I thought the way that he described what he wanted and how he wanted it, and like he's telling her, like, I gave you these specific instructions, like it made sense. It's like, oh, well, he wants to do this for this and this for that. But like having her go through it, to even the fact that he goes, it's even down to how you cut the meat. Like that is how specific you need to be for us to get exactly what we want. And it's just wrong. Like it's just so mad at her. But then you see this point in her where you see that she has the hunger to want to give him what she wants. And then we get through this long exposition of her like staying through all the night and the night before, of her cooking, and she's got all these burns all over her until she finally got it right.
Yeah, so much so that she slept on the kitchen floor that night, just still practicing that. And she probably wastes a lot of meat too. Yeah. But she knew that she had to get this right if she wanted to stay in this kitchen. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was arguably one of the most intense scenes of the movie. And it was honestly at that moment, it's like, we're not even 20 minutes in. Like, what does the rest of this 2-hour movie has to offer? Because I was dialed in. Honestly, I was dialed in from some of the opening frames of the movie, Absolutely. Which was them just like cutting food. And like, to me, that's an easy win for me. Like when you have like just hearing the sights and the sounds of cooking, it's like, ooh, okay, we're definitely being kind of creative with it. We're being imaginative. We're being, definitely showcasing like your filmography skills, like I liked your editing skills really too. Like I liked how they opened the movie and then going into this scene, like from there, I was already interested by the trailer. The first scene got to me, but this scene, I was dialed in. Absolutely. I was like, now you have my attention. Let's see what this movie is about right now.
Absolutely. So she's they're being hired for this private birthday party for the general, that's where she needs to go to slice the meat that she needed to fry for, because she was assigned to be the fry cook for this party. That's where she meets Toss, who's a business rival of Paul. She continually works for Paul. And then this is where her and Tone, like, so he starts teaching her. He shows her the market where they get the food, and understanding that Chef Paul does give back to the poor because he pays these people very well. So that they can find the very best for him. So, but for her, she appreciated it because, we're cooking these elaborate meals for high society, but he's still paying it forward to the people who are helping him. Like that it's economically, it's trickling down. Like they're overpaying for his food, and then he's overpaying for his market for the things that he wants because he wants the highest quality.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought that was around the first scenes where they kind of showcase the beauty into the food. We see them going to these markets, like showcasing, like, okay, like it's more than just what's in the kitchen. It's also how you get the food, the process of getting the very best, and like forming the foods that you're building out. Like we get to see a little bit more variety into that. We also see that in the bear. A lot of comparisons to the bear, really, that I can make in this movie. And I think me watching the bear even gave me a more appreciation for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But they definitely, I think that was the first time that they actually showcased the beauty of like cooking and like picking out your meats and whatnot. So yeah, I enjoyed that scene a lot.
Yeah, really, really, really done well. And then he's cooking for her, and he's got some dry beef. This is the part that I'm kind of confused about.
Okay.
So when they were together, he pulls out some dry aged beef, and then they start cooking whatever. So the next day, the soup specialist is fired for stealing the dry aged beef. But didn't the other guy steal it? I read that as the other guy stole it. Like he stole it, but then the other guy took the fall for him. Right?
Yeah, I read it the same way.
Or did I miss? Or maybe they're just two. Maybe he did buy it, and then the other guy did steal it. But it just seemed they were so close together, and it's the same item that it just seems weird. But then we never, like, that's something that we just never explore. So I'm assuming that's not what happened. So
no, I'm pretty sure. To your point, I think he took the fall for it for whatever reason we don't know, or he ended up stealing it, but then gave it to the other guy, and for like a profit, like, hey, I'll steal it, and then you pay me. So it's really iffy on what happened there, but yeah, that was definitely a moment in the movie where it wasn't explained well.
Yeah.
Of what happened to who stole the meat and why did he take the fall for it. It was interesting move.
Regardless, though, I think that moment, it opened up a good moment for Paul, because then the guy's like, well, why, we should be able to buy good food too. He goes, well, when you can afford to pay to have me cook for you, then I'll happily cook for you. But these people are paying, right. They're paying for the highest quality. Like when you have the money, then you can pay for it, and it's there is some truth to that. Like there's both sides. Yeah. Like we deserve to eat well. Like we deserve good, high quality food. It's like, but when you can pay for it, then you can have that. But then even for them, even for the high society, it's not even about the food. It's about the status that the food brings with it, which we later see later on. So he fires the soup specialist. So sous chef Dang has to pick up the slack for their next client, the family of 3. When Paul tosses it out, he tries it, he tosses it out, and then he uses the cheap ingredients on hand. It's basically just like hot water and ramen packets, which we later find out. We later find out that he tasted shrimp in the original soup, even though he told the chefs about the client's the daughter has a young shellfish allergy. He says that Dang sabotaged the soup due to his jealousy over the younger chefs surpassing him, and then Dang just stabs him and walks out. He's like, you're an asshole. He just grabs a knife, shanks him, and goes, fuck you, and just kind of just leaves.
Yeah, that was wild to me. That's why I thought, I mean, the fact that he took to the resort to just stab him in the, so that scene was very interesting. So even leading in before that, we kind of had no idea of why he would sabotage Chef Paul in the first place. We didn't really get much about him. Even in the story, like even when they were at that party, he was like, the other guys were like, oh man, I want to be like Chef Paul. Look at him. He gets to dance with all those people. And then, the sous chef, Dang, he was like, he's not enjoying himself at all. Which is, we saw that he wasn't enjoying himself. This is just part of the status. Mm-hmm. In actuality, these people don't even care about him. They just know that he is a popular figure for people to cook for them. So as far as the rich is concerned, we're just going to hire Chef Paul as a status symbol, not because the food's actually good and tasteful. Like, they don't care anything about that. And then he made a really interesting line that says, as long as you don't make your own menu, you're invisible. And I think at that moment it sparked a light, like a light bulb in Oi's head of like, okay, I'm taking note of that. If I want to be somebody, if I want to be someone special, I have to make my own menu. And I have, and we see that slowly progress throughout the movie. And then that kind of goes into, and I feel like, so it's weird to have like that scene all like very close together to then all of a sudden sous chef Dang is betraying him by adding shrimp to the soup where he knew that the little girl had allergic reaction to it, and then for him to have to pivot and then put like these ramen packets together to give them soup just so they can give them something to eat or otherwise they would have, or at least the little girl would have died. So I don't know. It felt very weird and it felt very abrupt and sudden. And then especially for him picking up the knife, stabbing him, and then walking out.
And we all right, bye.
Yeah, it definitely felt a little weird how we got to that moment. But anyway, the story continues.
So
I don't know.
Oi goes to visit him in the hospital, and then he opens up to the reasons he becomes about a chef. His mother was a maid for a rich family, and she was forced to pay back after Paul, as a young child, broke a jar of caviar. And then and this is what made him realize that food as a status symbol, as opposed to like it being about the actual quality, because he was reaching into the fridge. He wanted to know. He knew that the caviar was really expensive, and when they were cleaning it up, he had tried a little bit, and he was like, "This tastes like shit." So this has nothing to do with the taste, and he's right. Caviar is garbage. Like, it literally, like, it does not taste good, but it is so fucking expensive. Like, and it's the fact that it is a hard to get item that what makes it so expensive, and just the process of getting it. But like, people eat it for status. They don't eat it for taste because it tastes like shit.
Yeah, and honestly, what he said, I think this was like the best lines of the movie, and really showcased Chef Paul as not like this extreme Gordon Ramsay type chef, but more like how he got there. And you, as a person watching it, as the audience, understands that. Mm-hmm. Like, you understand how Chef Paul got there. And he said a great monologue, in my opinion, that it first starts off with saying, food made me love food. Oh, sorry. So before that, Oi gives him her famous family recipe, which in the dubbed version, they called it crybaby noodles.
That's what the subtitle said. Subtitle said crybaby noodles.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it said that or not. But yeah, what they called crybaby noodles. And she explained how the rest, it was a family recipe, and she said it was made with love as well. And he actually enjoyed it. He thought it was really good. And then he went on to say, food made with love doesn't exist. You need drive more than love, which I think we see like that line kind of permeates throughout the rest of the movie, because we see Oi, kind of battle between making food for a drive to her career, that hunger we were talking about, or to make it for love, which we see on the family side, which we get to learn more about her family throughout the movie. Obviously, she was working in her family's restaurant before she started going off on this high class chef journey. But what Chef Paul said in this scene was quite incredible. He said, "What you eat represents your social status. It has nothing to do with love. The poor eat to end their hunger, but when you have more than enough to eat, your hunger doesn't end. Your hunger for approval, for something special, for exclusive experiences. That shitty caviar made me realize I want to be a chef. I want to be the kind of chef that can be rich. Sorry. I want to be a chef that can be rich. No, I said that wrong. I want to be that kind of chef, a chef that the rich will beg on their hands and knees to cook for them. I make them hungry for me." And I feel like that is a very powerful line. That's like, I don't care what I'm cooking for the most part. I just want them to want me, not my food. I want them to want me. And I guess in food, they also want the food, but they want him making the food, not anybody else. And I feel like throughout the story that we got from his childhood, we were able to get that completely. Like, that is a very strong line, in my opinion, throughout the whole movie.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the strongest part of the films. This is really where you see, because really where Oi and Paul kind of meet in the middle. Like, They really get to, she gets to understand him, and he gets to really understand and appreciate her. I mean, because literally he tries it with one bite, and he goes, "Oh, it's these two things. You made it with these two things as a base." And she's like, "You can tell that with one bite." Like, really just appreciating. Like, she obviously looks up to him as a mentor. Like, she wants to be him or or surpass him at that point.
Yeah, and to your point, I think you're right. Like, meeting in the middle and kind of them understanding each other, because even before that, obviously Chef Paul saw her as a lesser, obviously. But not only that, but if you remember, a few scenes before that, she wanted to do something more in the kitchen, and she's like, "No, you're just a fryer. You're not. There's nothing for us to fry in this meal, so we don't need you right now." It's like, "What do you want me to do?" I was like, "Well, you can, like, I don't know, like, mop the floors, do this, make the kitchen clean." It's like, "No, I'm better than that." And then he's like, "What makes you better than the other people in the crew?" And then go ahead, cut the vegetables or whatever she was cutting. And then then she tried to cut it faster, and then she ends up cutting her finger. And it's like, "You see, you're useless." And so, like, you can see him kind of belittling her a little bit, but also goes along with that drive that she later gets throughout the movie. Yeah, he even said, like, "Besides frying, you don't know how to do anything. Why do you think you deserve a golden ticket?" Kind of like a fast pass over to, like, greatness. And you're right. We do see in that scene that they're kind of reaching a middle ground. Almost like as this movie reaches the halfway point, we start seeing the shift in characters before things get a little nasty later on in the movie.
Yes, yeah, and actually, I mean, I pretty much from the stabbing on, the movie just takes like a really dark turn, because after then we learn about her father who has a health crisis, and because they're not as rich, he's in like this overrun hospital, and she really sees the dichotomy of it, because Chef Paul's in his own room by himself, he's being well taken care of, and then she goes to her father, and it's like a ER of people just in beds everywhere, and then he's put into a room he's sharing a room with a bunch of other people, like. And it's just interesting that the status, what it's able to give you. She's literally seeing both sides play out.
Yeah.
And during this time, she learns about that their previous client, the guy was in a lot of debt. So then he killed his wife, killed his daughter, and killed himself. Like, the people. And then, and not only do they talk about it, but they also they show it, which I thought was so weird. Like, hearing about it was dark enough, and then we started to see the bodies. I go, "Oh, I wonder if they're going to show the little girl." And then they did. It was really, really strange. But
yeah, it was graphic too. It was like they were close-ups on each body, and I was like, "Wow!" For like, what's weird also is, like, during the news, portion when she was discovering that the family had all died. We saw it through her perspective. We didn't see it through the news perspective. It was like looking at her face, and we were hearing about it. And then to go out of their way to then cut to the actual murder scene, I was like, the crime scene. I was like, wow. I mean, I don't think that movie needed to go that far.
But I think it was another play on just like status and society. Like, this family that you seemingly thought was so happy and they had their life established, whereas, like, they weren't. Like, the guy was just not a good person, not doing good things, not being honest, and then he has to go and do this, and it's so hard to see that from somebody who you just provided a meal for. Like, you just saw them, they were happy, they were enjoying a lovely family dinner, and then hours must have been even, and they didn't say it must have been days after. He kills them and then kills himself. It was just really intense. It wasn't really out of left field, because it to me it fit into the narrative.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the next event, where Oi and Tone and everybody were in this park, and there's this this government guy. He goes hunting. And I go, oh, what is just some kind of like turkey or a duck? I didn't think anything of it at first, and then he picks it up, and it's like, it's a great hornbill. Oh
Okay.
yes, oh yes. This is the bird. I want to show it because they show the wide shot of this damn bird, and it's, oh god, it was just really intense. He shoots this thing.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. A great hornbill, also known as a concave, the Great Indian hornbill. So it's meant to be. What was it? It was illegal for them to be hunting this bird, but the government official shoots it, and then they set up like this outdoor cooking area.
Yeah.
For them to cook and kill this bird, and Oi and Tone are like, all right, like that's illegal, we're out. And then Chef Paul has another one of those moments where he tells her, like, this is what's gonna make you great. Like you have to be willing to do whatever, you know. But they leave, and then she's hired. She goes to work for Toss, his new restaurant Flame, and this is where she starts to get famous.
Which part of me feels like that also came a little too quickly. Like I didn't feel like that she was that far along in her journey to be like. I mean, we saw her earlier as well, like experimenting with different ingredients and cooking on her own, and like having that relationship with Toss, right? It was Toss or Tone? It was Tone.
Tone is the guy who brought her on. Toss is like the sponsor guy. Yeah,
so we saw Tone helping her kind of fine tune her cooking skills, and then we see her experimenting with different foods and maybe trying to create their own menu. I just feel like from that moment where she left Chef Paul to then starting her own restaurant with the help of Toss, and like he was starting a restaurant, she was then the head chef of it all, and I was like, I feel like it happened a little too quickly. Like all of it just happened, and I didn't really feel that like I felt like we got there just so quickly.
Yeah, they didn't show. I just assumed that there was a brief passage of time, like of her setting up the restaurant, because they show her hiring a new crew and like her practicing a little bit, and like the actual, like we go from. I would assume it happened over a span of months, because when he hires her, the restaurant is like still being like put together.
Yeah.
But then we fast forward, and the restaurant's up. She's in her chef coach. She's got her team with her. Yeah. So like
she's killing it.
She's killing it. So I see. So to me, it's like they never explained what the period of time is, but she's starting to grow in popularity because of her flair using with fire. Obviously call back to her being the fry cook in the beginning of the movie, of her burning herself.
There was a great shot of like her like still learning her new kitchen, but it was like the sprinklers were going off and there was a whole bunch of fire from the pans, and she was kind of like just had her head down and was like, I can't get this right type of attitude. And I thought that was a great shot to just look visually, and again showcasing her drive to be better than just trying to be the best.
And then she finds out that at least we are told at this point that she has been her and Chef Paul have been hired to cook for this birthday celebration, which turns into like this competition between both of them.
It's like a cook-off almost.
So it turned off into a cook-off, and like I thought this scene was really, really well done. Here, I took some picture screenshots of that moment, because Chef Paul goes fucking crazy. Like he started. I mean, I only pulled a couple of clips from it, but he's like throwing that yellow, whatever this pound of seasoning. He's throwing it at it, and it's like, and then it leads to this moment. I didn't get a good picture. I got a semi-decent picture of him lighting the this carcass on fire, and I just thought this was so interesting, because like then it leads to him laying it out, and then him telling them to come eat it, and it's like a callback to like that these people just want status and power.
Yes.
And, like, what makes you feel more powerful than just grabbing a slab of meat right off the fig? Like,
And it's honestly, it's such like a juxtaposition to what her first dish was,
Yes.
which was like, here's a very classy, she called it taste of the wave. And you got this nice, elegant looking food. It's like, oh, this looks nice. And all of a sudden, Chef Paul goes, here's a huge slab of meat on a hook coming down from the ceiling. And he goes, woof, here's seasoning. Woof, here's seasoning.
slicing it.
Slicing it. Fire burns up in the flame, as we see here in the photo. And then as it dies down, he's like, here you go. Here, use your hands and take it. And he calls it a sacrificial feast. And I was like, my God. Like, again, talk about visually. It looked
Beautiful.
crazy. It was so good there.
And then they give us this juxtaposition of her, like, he's cooking, and this is the way I perceived it. Like, he's cooking off, like, status and power and fear, and whereas she comes at it with love. Also, I wrote it down in my notes.
Yeah.
When she was sitting down with Toss, and they were talking about this, they were mentioning the initial mention of the cook-off. I go, she's going to cook the crybaby noodles, I bet. And guess what? She did.
She cooked them crybaby noodles all right. But also before she did that, I thought was great as far as the lighting is like the whole room was filled with red. And then like you see her like zoning in of like, oh my God, I lost it. And then almost immediately the lights changed. So it went from like the whole room being red to probably like back to like party lighting. But for her, it was like this normal white light as this almost like the fire ignites and like this white light that comes in like normal lighting, and then she goes into action and starts making the crybaby noodles. And I was like, oh damn, like that was really good. Like again, going back to cinematography, the lighting was great in this scene. Yeah, great scene.
And then it like immediately after, Chef Paul is like, don't you want to wash down that oil with some hot water?
Like really going even further basic than what she did.
And then he basically tells her like, well, you're going to lose because it's not because my food is better. It's because his reputation makes people want him more. They hunger for the status more than they hunger for the actual food. It's like, it doesn't matter how good your food is. Were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
But then, then everybody's phones start going off. You hear like the social media ting, and then the cops come up and they want to arrest him. And then we find out that they got video of Paul cooking the hornbill, which was leaked by Tone, and Paul's arrested. Toss admits that he and Tone conspired to use the party to destroy Paul and elevate Oi. And then to sell it, the celebrity client picked Paul for her party first and only hired Oi because of Toss's lobbying. So she's like, you lied to me this whole time, and like, this is clearly like a setup. You want me to step over him so that I can rise. And, she was clearly disillusioned by this. And then we see that she quits Flame, and then she comes back to her family. She is welcome back to her family because this is where she's going to start her restaurant.
Yeah, and what's interesting even before that, like she had a conversation with Tones about like looks like he also started his own restaurant. I was a little bit confused by that. And and he was saying
when they both left, I perceived it as she went off to Flame, and he just kind of went off and he started his own little thing.
And like he was saying that they're probably have to shut down the business because of she was saying because of location, not because of the food, and it just wasn't doing as well as she was over at Flame, obviously. And she said a line that kind of probably resonated with him, and it was, as in, from now on, all you will ever think about is when you will. Oh no, sorry, that was before that. Oh yeah, that scene with that Paul and Oi. Paul was telling her at her restaurant that they were going to be having a cook-off, and then he's like, "How does it feel to be on the top?" And then he was like, "All you ever think about is you fought how." He said, "From now on, all you will ever think about is when you when you fall off the edge. You've just begun. You have more to lose than the price of being special. And that's the price of being special. Like once you're there, you're only thinking about is you got to stay up there and not your fall, which is a crazy thing to kind of get some mind games into her head that he's doing. But going back to Tones, he was saying, did I write it down? Yeah. So yeah, they had a conversation, and Oi was like, the reason why you can't make your dreams come true because you are not hungry enough. Kind of the lessons that she learns. And then going back to the very end of the movie where he decides to use the leaked footage as leverage for Toss to invest in him into a sponsorship. And then he's like, what's the problem? Like, you said I wasn't hungry enough, and this is what I needed to do to get my restaurant to get sponsored and to be featured and stuff, and kind of go along this journey. And I think it was that moment where she realized that, like, how dirty this game can be, and she didn't want to bring other people down in order for her to succeed. She wanted to succeed on her own merits, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. And even so, toward the end of the movie, she did go to her family, but the music and her expression when she was cooking the food alluded to something that it was like that drive is still there. She's like, all right, we're going to be here as a family, and we're going to be happy with cooking again. But the way I took the ending of the movie was that drive was never gone. So yes, she might be happier cooking with her family, but I feel like that some more intense things are going to be happening in that new restaurant she wants to build. Like, she's going to do it her way, but she can't forget the lessons she's learned in the past. But how did you perceive the ending? Anything?
I mean, I felt very hopeful. It just felt very hopeful in the end. Like, maybe she was going to take all the good that she learned. Excuse me. And she was going to take the good and kind of, and leave the bad with everything that she's learned and she's been through, because she was in a very successful spot. She didn't have to leave.
No.
So obviously that part of that world was not appealing to her anymore. So at least it seems like this is her hope, to want to try to be better and do something to be successful, but be a little different.
Yeah, and I don't know. I took it more of a cynical route where, like, yes, she's going to be doing all that like her own way. She doesn't want to be involved in that world anymore, but she can't unlearn what she learned. Like, she's going to be taking a lot of things she did learn, and it's almost like she's going to open up her new restaurant the way she wants to, but she's a changed person regardless. So I feel like some of the negativity and some of the bad might be spewing into it, but that's just the hunger that's now in her. Now it's like, now that drive is now shifted from like Chef Paul to Flame, and now to the restaurant she wants to continue running with her family. So, I mean, all in all, I mean, as far as final thoughts are for myself, I thought this movie was great. It kind of like, it sold me on the trailer, but really delivered with the movie itself. Excuse me. They really leaned into the social status themes, like I said, the idea of hunger and what that mean, that drive to be someone special. And you can even, in this sense of the movie, it was pertaining to like cooking and being a chef, and that drive to be someone special, to be a better person. Not a better person, but I guess to further your career. But I think that can apply to anything, really. Yeah. I mean, just taking those themes and like the drive that you do, and all of us do, to further our careers or further who we want to be as a person. I think, to me, the strongest point was this messaging throughout this whole movie. And for me, I would give it like a 4 out of 5 stars. I was quite impressed with a lot that happened. There was a few elements in here that I was a little bit confused about. Like, we were confused about who stole the meat. It was kind of out of left field that the sous chef just stabbed him. Like, obviously Chef Paul had a few altercations with his crew and always meet eye to eye, but for him, they were expendable. We can have another person do what I want to do. And then offered a really, really cool finale at the end of it with the cook-off and everything. So yeah, a solid movie, great messages, great themes throughout the whole movie, and consistent too. I love the different meanings with the word hunger and what that means to people, that drive. Yeah, 4 out of 5 stars for me.
I'm actually going to go 4.5, because I thought the narrative was just constructed really well. Some of the cinematography was just absolutely gorgeous. And the movie's 2.5 hours long, and I wasn't bored at all. Like, I was I was in on the story from start to finish. Really solid film all around. Solid foreign film this month.
Yeah, and I feel like this month, and I feel like that it's been a while since we've had like a really, really good one.
Yeah, this was a really good one.
Yeah, this is a really, really good one. So again, if you haven't seen it, it's Hunger. It's on Netflix. We kind of spoiled the whole thing, but hey,
so we're
go. That's our job, is just to spoil movies. That's what we're here for. But yeah, and then again, another foreign film in the books. We love doing these because if we didn't, we would never learn about this movie.
True, absolutely.
And how great it is, and also so many similarities to the Beef, right? No, the bear. Wow, I was trying to. That's not right at all. I think so many similarities to The Bear that I was able to compare to that was really, I think, elevated my experience because of some of the themes that they were playing with The Bear and then bringing into this movie. But yeah, that was our spoiler review on Hunger, another foreign film in the books. We love doing these. We try to do these once a month. And it just opens our eyes to new cinema around the world. And like we mentioned earlier, I don't think we've ever done a Thailand film before.
No, this was our
first. So another country to add to our list. And also, what a great film to introduce us to more films that comes out of Thailand. So hopefully we can do more in the future with them if anything kind of sparks our interest.
Yeah, I agree.
But there you go. That is all the show we have for you guys this week. Ernesto, tell our listeners what they can look forward to next week.
Next week, we will be reviewing Beetlejuice. I'm not going to say it the third time. Michael Keaton's return. Michael Keaton and Tim Burton return for this film. I'm kind of excited to see it. I remember liking the original one as a kid, but I'm curious. I'm going to rewatch it before we go see the second one this weekend.
Yeah, I have never been a huge fan of the original Beetlejuice, so I will be rewatching it again just to brush up on the story, and I'm going into the sequel with an open mind. I'm hearing some early positive reviews around it, especially a lot of people feel like that it fits the tone very well of the first movie, so it could be like a really good sequel leaning into it. I don't know what really the movie is about, which is probably a good thing. The trailers didn't really spoil much for me. So I'm going in here with an open mind, but I don't know if I'm going to love it. But I guess that's the beauty of it. We'll find out as we talk about it next week. So there you go. And if we're lucky, we can have a special guest on and everything will be great. And if we do end up getting him, it's going to be a great episode.
Yeah, I agree.
So there you go. If you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at @box_office_bingers. The movie fun does not stop here. It continues on our social media channels. We have so many videos, so many reels, so many breaking news, movie show on Mondays, new to stream Fridays. It's all there for you guys on our social media channels. So be sure to follow all, just one. Anything will do. We really do appreciate it. And that's it. That's all the show we have for you guys this week. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out to listen to us talk about movies. We really do appreciate it. Come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Been Ernesto Santos. See ya.